The engines were coughing. Not sputtering, not struggling. Coughing. Like a dying man refusing to go quietly. First Lieutenant James Red Mallory glanced at the fuel gauge again, as if the needle might magically move. It didn't. It trembled just above empty. Below him, Europe was swallowed in fog. No landmarks, no runway, no friendly flares, just a white, endless sea. Somewhere beyond that fog lay Nazi-occupied territory. He knew that much. His B-17 had taken flak over northern France in late 1943. One engine was gone, another was failing. The formation had disappeared into cloud cover hours ago, and now he was alone. This is the untold story of a pilot who ran out of sky and landed in the one place he feared most. Mallory wasn't supposed to be here. He was a farm kid from western Ohio, grew up flying nothing more than dreams and a second-hand tractor. But when Pearl Harbor shattered the illusion of distance, he signed up, learned to fly heavy bombers, learned to trust the roar of 4 engines, and learned that over Europe, the sky could turn against you in seconds. That morning's mission had been clear: bomb a rail junction feeding German troops. They hit the target, but the flak was relentless. Black bursts ripped through the formation. Mallory felt the shudder when a shell tore into his wing. One engine caught fire. His crew bailed. He stayed. Someone had to hold her steady. By the time he turned west, smoke filled the cockpit and the radio was dead. He never made it back to the channel. Now, hours later, the fog swallowed everything. The second engine wheezed. He did the math. Wind speed, estimated position, fuel burn. It didn't matter. He had minutes, maybe less. Through a sudden tear in the fog, he saw it. A patchwork of fields. Small, irregular, surrounded by hedgerows and stone fences. No airstrip, no markers, no guarantee. Just earth. Mallory swallowed hard. If he tried to glide farther, he'd stall and crash. If he circled, the engines would quit mid-turn. If he landed wrong, the bomber would cartwheel and explode. He thought about Ohio, about his mother standing at the kitchen sink, about how she always said, "Jimmy, when you don't know what to do the brave thing." He exhaled. He lowered the flaps and aimed for the biggest field he could see. "All right, girl," he whispered to the B-17. "One more." The landing was violent. The wheels clipped a stone wall. The left wing scraped earth. Metal screamed. The bomber skidded sideways through mud and frost. Then, silence. Steam hissed from ruptured lines. Mallory sat frozen, hands still gripping the controls. He was alive. Then he heard something else. Voices, shouting, coming fast. He unbuckled, grabbed his sidearm, and pushed the cockpit hatch open. Through the thinning fog, figures were running toward him across the field. 5, no, 6 men. Wool coats, caps, boots heavy with mud. They were yelling, and even before he understood the language, he knew the language. German. His heart slammed against his ribs. Occupied territory. Of course it was. He'd landed in France under Nazi control. He looked at the pistol in his hand. 6 men against 1. He could fire, maybe take 1 or 2, but then what? He'd die in a muddy field no one back home could find on a map? The men were closer now, 30 yards. He caught a word. Schnell! Hurry. They weren't soldiers, no uniforms, no rifles, just pitchforks and farm tools. Farmers. German-speaking farmers. In occupied France, that could mean one thing:
collaborators. Or it could mean something else entirely. One of the men slowed, raised his hands, not in surrender, in reassurance. "Amerikaner?" he called out. Mallory hesitated. Another man shouted something sharper, urgent. The first man shot him a warning glance. Then, in broken English, "You American?" Mallory nodded once. The men looked at each other. The tension in their shoulders shifted. One of them ran forward and grabbed Mallory's arm, not roughly, but firmly. "Come, fast!" From the road beyond the hedgerow came a distant mechanical growl. A truck, military. The farmers moved quickly. Two of them threw canvas over the B-17's insignia. Another pointed toward a low stone barn. "Hide," the first man urged. Mallory's mind raced. Why would they help him? Unless they weren't loyal to the Reich. Unless the language he feared wasn't the allegiance he assumed. They shoved him into the barn just as a German patrol truck rolled past the field entrance. Mallory watched through a crack in the wood as uniformed soldiers stepped out, scanning the fog. One of the farmers met them calmly, spoke fluent German, pointed vaguely down the road. The soldiers looked annoyed, frustrated. After a tense minute, they climbed back into the truck and drove off. The barn door closed. Darkness, heavy breathing. The farmer turned back to Mallory. In a low voice, he spoke again, this time carefully. "We speak German," he said, "but we are not Germany." He gestured to the land. "Alsace, a border region, swallowed and re-swallowed by empires, families forced to speak the conqueror's tongue to survive. We do not choose this war, but today we choose you," the farmer said quietly. They hid him for 3 days, fed him black bread and thin soup, burned pieces of the aircraft to erase evidence. At night, they moved him between barns as patrols searched nearby villages. On the 4th night, a member of the French resistance arrived, summoned by whispered word through the countryside. Mallory would be guided south, then west, then somehow back to Allied lines. Before he left, he tried to thank them. The farmer who first approached him simply shook his head. "No thanks," he said, "just fly again." James Mallory made it home in 1944. He flew more missions. He never forgot the fog, or the moment he almost pulled the trigger on men who chose courage over fear. History remembers the battles, the bombings, the generals, but sometimes the war turns on a muddy field and 6 strangers who run toward danger instead of away. They spoke the enemy's language, but their hearts chose something stronger. Because courage doesn't belong to a flag, it belongs to the human spirit. History remembers victories, but it often forgets the people who made them possible. And that is the untold spirit.